She smiled when she said it, the kind of smile that felt like a test. Not flirtation. Not kindness either. Something slower. Heavier. Like she already knew I'd follow her voice. I was supposed to be fixing her fence. That's how it started. A favor for a friend of her nephew's, nothing more. The boards were soft from rain, the ground still damp. She stood on the porch, coffee in one hand, watching. Not saying much. The first thing I noticed wasn't her face. It was how still she was. Like she didn't waste movement. Even when she turned, it was deliberate. Her robe brushed against her knee, her hair loose, a streak of gray near her temple that didn't bother hiding. She looked like someone who'd stopped trying to be young, and somehow that made her impossible to look away from. I hammered, measured, adjusted. She stayed quiet. Once she asked if I wanted water. I said I was fine. She brought it anyway. Her hand brushed mine when she passed the glass. Just that, a touch, and everything inside me froze up. Hot day, she said. Yeah, I answered, even though a breeze had just passed. For a while, the only sounds were wood, metal, and the faint hum of her refrigerator from the open window. I caught her reflection in the glass. Her gaze lowered, then flicked away the moment I looked up. She had that habit, looking at me only when I wasn't looking back. At one point, I asked her if she wanted the gate to swing inward or out. She stepped closer to see. Show me, she said. Her shoulder almost brushed mine. The smell of her perfume, something faint, warm, maybe sandalwood, mixed with the cut grass. I explained where the latch would go, but she wasn't looking at the fence. Not exactly. There was a pause, long enough that I could hear my own breathing. Then she smiled again. You missed a spot, she said softly. I turned, confused. Where? She nodded toward the house. Inside. I followed her through the door. The shift from sunlight to the cool air inside made the world tilt for a second. The living room was quiet, half-lit, with an old fan turning lazily in the corner. She walked ahead of me, her bare feet silent on the floor. I noticed small things, the faint smudge of paint on her wrist, the open book on the couch, the soft hum of the fan pulling at a loose strand of her hair. She stopped by the window and pointed toward a section of trim that was cracked. Right there, she said. Can you fix that too? Her tone was even, but something about the way she said it, the way she stayed close without stepping back, made it hard to think. I nodded, trying to sound casual. Sure. I've got time. She tilted her head slightly. You always this helpful? Only when someone asks nicely. That got a small laugh out of her. Quick. Genuine. The kind that dies before it reaches the eyes. She turned to get something, a cloth maybe, and the space she'd occupied still felt warm. I could smell her perfume again, faint in the air, like it had decided to stay behind. From outside, a car door slammed. Voices. Someone arriving. She looked toward the sound, then back at me. For a moment, neither of us moved. Her lips parted, as if she was about to say something, but she didn't. Instead, she just held my gaze for one beat too long. Then the front door opened, and everything inside that silence broke. The sound at the door turned out to be her sister. Just a quick stop to borrow something, a rush of perfume and chatter that barely reached us before fading out again. When the door closed, quiet returned too quickly. The kind that hums in your ears. She exhaled, almost a sigh, then said, She talks too much. I smiled, but she didn't look at me. She wiped the counter, though it was already clean. I got back to the trim by the window, pretending to focus. The paint was cracked, but not broken. I could have finished it in minutes. Instead, I slowed down, half for her, half because something about being here felt like standing too close to a flame. She leaned against the counter, watching. You do good work, she said. I shrugged. Been doing small jobs since high school. Not college. I hesitated. Took a break. Still figuring it out. She nodded like she understood that better than most people would. Figuring it out doesn't end, she said quietly. There was something in her tone, something tired but soft. I wanted to ask what she meant, but she was already moving, checking the coffee pot, tucking her hair behind her ear. That small motion, her fingers near her neck, her wrist bending, stayed in my head longer than it should have. Your husband doesn't mind you having strangers fix things? I asked, instantly regretting it. She paused mid-movement, then set the pot down gently. He doesn't live here, she said. Oh, another pause. Hasn't for a while. I nodded, not trusting myself to answer. She smiled faintly, but it didn't reach her eyes. I used to mind being alone, she said. Now I think I just got used to it. I could feel my throat tighten. Guess it's easier not to expect much. Or safer. Our eyes met, and for a moment neither of us blinked. I bet to pick up the brush again, mostly to break the tension. Safer doesn't always mean better. When I stood up, she was closer than before. Close enough that her breath brushed my shoulder. I froze, and she didn't move away. "Careful," she murmured, glancing down. "You'll get pain on your shirt." Her fingers reached out, barely grazing the edge of fabric near my chest, brushing away a speck that wasn't there. That touch, small, unhurried, sent a line of heat through me. I couldn't look at her. I could only hear the fan turning, slow and steady. "You should probably wash up," she said softly, but her hand didn't drop right away. When it finally did, she turned toward the sink. I heard the faucet run, the sound of water hitting porcelain. I joined her, standing beside her while she rinsed a glass. For a moment, we were quiet again. Not awkward, just still. Her sleeve brushed my arm as she set the glass down. Neither of us moved away. I said her name then, just her name, and she looked up at me. There was no smile this time, just a silence that filled the space between us like a held breath. And then, without touching, without saying a word, something in that quiet felt like the beginning of trouble neither of us would stop. The next afternoon, I came back to finish the job. She hadn't asked me to. I told myself it was about the fence, but we both knew that wasn't true. She opened the door before I even knocked. "You're early," she said. I didn't have much else going on. Her eyes lingered for a second, as if deciding whether to let me in. Then she stepped aside. "Come on, then." The house felt different this time. Brighter, but heavier. The air held that faint scent of her coffee and something floral. I noticed she'd changed. Loose shirt, rolled sleeves, no jewelry. Casual in a way that looked unguarded, and somehow that made it worse. I went straight to the tools I'd left by the back door, pretending to focus on the latch. But she was near the counter again, moving slower than usual, wiping something that didn't need wiping. "You didn't have to come back today," she said. "Didn't want to leave it unfinished. You're persistent. Or bad at walking away." That earned a quiet laugh, the kind that stays in the throat. When I knelt by the gate, I could feel her presence behind me. The soft rustle of her sleeve, the faint sound of her breathing. Every time she stepped closer, I lost track of what I was doing. Then a phone buzzed on the table, sharp, sudden. She froze. Her eyes flicked toward it. The screen lit up with a name I didn't recognize. She didn't move to answer. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Fine." Her voice was flat. Too quick. She picked up the phone, turned it over, and let it go dark again. I went back to work, but the air had changed. Her silence carried something under it, anger or fear, or maybe both. After a while she spoke. "You shouldn't be here so much. People talk. I don't care what people talk about." "You should," she said softly. "You're young. You don't know how small this town can be." "I know enough." She sighed, leaning against the doorframe. "You don't." "Not yet." I stood up, wiping my hands on my shirt. "You think this is a mistake." She met my eyes then, really met them. "I think it's dangerous." Her words didn't sound like warning. They sounded like confession. I took a step closer before I even realized I was moving. She didn't back away. The silence stretched, thick and electric. I could hear the fan inside, the faint buzz of a fly against the window, my own pulse in my ears. Her hand lifted, not quite reaching me, but close enough that I felt the shift in air between us. My fingers twitched like they wanted to meet hers. Then a voice from outside. "Mrs. Lang? You home?" We froze. A neighbor's call, casual, harmless, but her breath caught like she'd been caught in something worse. She pressed a finger to her lips. I nodded, stepping back, heart hammering. The voice faded. When she finally exhaled, she looked at me again, her face pale, eyes searching mine like she wanted to find a reason not to. "You should go," she whispered. "I know." But I didn't move. Neither did she. For one long second, we just stood there, too close, too aware, like the space between us was the only thing holding the world together. Rain came without warning that evening, the kind that starts soft, then turns heavy in seconds. I was halfway to my truck when she called from the porch. "You'll get soaked." "I'm fine," I shouted back, though I wasn't. "Don't be stubborn," she said, voice cutting through the rain. "Get inside." By the time I stepped through the door, water clung to my shirt, my hair dripping onto her floor. She frowned, grabbed a towel, and tossed it to me. "Here." Her tone was brisk, but her eyes didn't match it. They lingered too long. She reached out, hesitated, then brushed her thumb across my temple, wiping a bead of water. The touch stayed longer than it should have. "You'll catch cold," she murmured. I laughed quietly. "That's still a thing?" "It is when you care," she said, and then seemed to realize what she'd said. Her lips parted slightly, like she wanted to take it back. The air between us tightened. The sound of rain against the window filled the silence. "I shouldn't keep coming here," I said. "It's not fair to you." Her eyes flicked up. "You think this is about fairness? I don't know what this is." Her breath caught. "Then stop pretending you don't." Something cracked open in the room. The tension that had been building, quiet, polite, careful, finally showed its teeth. "I can't stop thinking about you," I said, the words spilling before I could stop them. "Even when I try." Her shoulders tensed. "You don't mean that." "I do." She turned away, gripping the back of a chair like it might hold her up. "You're too young to know what you want." "That's not true." "It is," she said, voice trembling now. "And even if it weren't," she stopped, shaking her head. "It would ruin things. Things are already ruined." She turned then, sudden, sharp, eyes bright, angry, maybe scared. "You think I haven't thought about it? You think it's easy watching you walk away every time and act like it's nothing?" Her voice broke on that last word. I stepped closer, slow, careful. "Then don't." The thunder outside rolled low, distant. She didn't move as I reached out, brushing a wet strand of hair from her face. My fingers lingered near her cheek. She didn't pull away. "You shouldn't," she whispered, but the words came out thin, like they'd already lost their fight. "I know." My hand was still on her skin, her breath warm against my wrist. She leaned forward, almost imperceptibly, enough that I could feel the heat of her. For a moment, the whole world seemed to shrink to that space between our mouths. And then the sound. A phone buzzing again. Harsh. Jarring. She flinched, stepping back like waking from a dream. The spell broke. She looked down, eyes unfocused, then whispered, barely audible. "I can't do this." But the way she said it, the tremor, the ache, made it sound less like refusal and more like surrender waiting for one more push. The next day, she didn't answer the door. I waited anyway. The rain had left everything slick and quiet, the fence gleaming faintly in the weak sun. Her car was in the drive. Curtains drawn. Nothing moved. I told myself to leave, and then her voice came, soft, muffled through the screen. "You shouldn't be here." "I just wanted to check the gate," I said. "It's fine." But she opened the door anyway. She looked different, tired, eyes red at the edges. Not sick, just worn. She stepped aside, and I entered, unsure if I was being invited or tolerated. The air felt heavy, close. "I got a call," she said quietly. "From your uncle." I froze. "You talked to him?" She nodded, watching me. "He asked if you'd finished the fence yet." I waited. The look in her eyes said that wasn't the whole story. Then she added, "He said you told him I'd been paying you extra. That I was keeping you busy." I swallowed. "That's not what I said." She crossed her arms, but it looked more like she was holding herself together than trying to keep me out. "So he's lying?" "I told him I liked working here. That's all." Her breath hitched, small, sharp. "Why would you say that?" I met her eyes. "Because it's true." She shook her head, turned away, and pressed a hand to her temple. "You don't understand what this looks like." "Then tell me." "It looks wrong," she said. "It looks like she stopped, couldn't finish. "Like you're what?" She turned back toward me, eyes glistening but fierce. "Like I'm taking advantage of you." The words landed hard. Not because they were untrue, but because they were the exact fear neither of us had spoken. "I'm not some kid," I said quietly. "I know that." "Then stop treating me like one." Her jaw tightened. She took a step toward me, then another, until I could feel the heat of her body even before she reached me. "You don't get it," she whispered. "I wake up thinking about you and hate myself for it." My chest tightened. "So stop hating yourself." Her eyes flicked to my mouth, then away. "You make it sound easy." "It's not. But it's real." Silence. Just the sound of our breathing, close, uneven. Her hands trembled as she reached to move past me, brushing my arm, a ghost of a touch, but she didn't make it far. I caught her wrist, gentle, not pulling, just holding. Her pulse beat fast under my fingers. "Tell me you don't want this," I said. She didn't answer. Her lips parted, maybe to deny it, maybe to admit it, but no words came. Then from outside, the crunch of tires on gravel. Voices. Her sister again. She pulled her wrist free, stepping back so fast she nearly stumbled. "You have to go. Now." I didn't move. Please, she said, and that word, the plea in it, made the decision for both of us. I turned for the door, heart pounding. But before I left, I looked back once. She was standing there in the half-light, hand pressed to her chest like she was trying to keep something from breaking loose. Whatever line we'd been walking, it was gone now. And both of us knew it. It was almost dark when I went back. I told myself I just wanted to return her hammer, but even I didn't believe that. The porch light was on. Her front door stood half open, like she'd been expecting someone but wasn't sure who. She was in the kitchen, barefoot, a half-finished glass of wine on the counter. The faint sound of rain again, not heavy this time, just enough to blur the silence between us. You shouldn't keep coming back, she said without turning. I know. Her hand trembled slightly as she set the glass down. Then why are you here? Because you didn't tell me to stay away, I said. That made her turn. Slowly. Her face was calm, but her eyes weren't. Do you think this ends well? No, I said. But it doesn't mean I can walk away. The honesty in that hung between us, bare and fragile. She stepped closer, one slow step, then another, until she was just a breath away. You don't understand what this would mean for me, she whispered. I think I do. Her eyes searched mine like she wanted me to give her a reason, one good excuse to stop. But I didn't have any. The room felt smaller, the air thicker. I could smell her perfume again, warm, faintly sweet, like something familiar I hadn't earned the right to remember. I tried, she said softly. I really did. I know. Her fingers brushed against my arm. A light touch, accidental or maybe not. My heart stuttered in my chest. She looked up at me then, her voice almost breaking. Tell me this isn't what you want. I shook my head. You already know it is. She closed her eyes, and I thought she might turn away again. Instead, she exhaled, a sound between surrender and regret. When she opened them, something had changed, a decision, maybe, or the exhaustion of fighting it. Her hand came up, tracing the edge of my jaw, tentative, shaking slightly. My skin felt too hot, too aware. I can't keep pretending you're just helping with the fence, she said. Then don't. That broke something open. She stepped closer, so close I could feel the warmth of her breath. My hands moved instinctively, one hovering near her back, not quite touching, the other frozen between us. Her eyes flicked down, then back up, steady now. If this happens, she whispered, we don't come back from it. I don't want to. The silence that followed was its own confession, raw, heavy, unfixable. She leaned forward, slow, like she was daring herself. My heart was a hammer in my chest. Every part of me wanted to meet her halfway. But just before our lips met, she stopped. Her forehead rested against mine. Her breath trembled. We'll ruin each other, she said. Maybe, I whispered. But at least it'll be honest. For a moment, neither of us moved. And in that pause, that fragile space between restraint and surrender, everything made sense. Not the rightness of it. Not the safety. Just the truth. We saw each other completely, and that alone was already too much to undo. Morning came quiet, soft, and gray, the kind that slows everything down before the world wakes up. The storm had passed. The fence gleamed clean from the rain, and the air smelled like wet wood and cut grass. I stood there for a minute, hands in my pockets, not sure if I should knock or turn back. She opened the door before I decided. You're early, she said. Her voice was calm again, but gentler somehow, like the night before had burned something away. I couldn't sleep, I admitted. She stepped aside. Then come in. There's coffee. Inside, the house looked lived in again, the small things back where they belonged. The air was warm. The tension that used to hum between us was still there, but softer now, like a song winding down. We sat at the table. Steam curled from her mug. For a while, we didn't speak. We just listened, to the faint ticking of the clock, the quiet outside. I thought about what you said, she murmured finally. Which part? The part about honesty. I nodded, unsure if I wanted to hear what came next. She looked down at her hands, then back at me. I spent years trying to make everything look right. Doing what was expected. Pretending that wanting something for myself was selfish. Her eyes glistened, but her voice stayed steady. You reminded me what it feels like to be seen again. I didn't say anything. I just reached across the table, slow enough for her to pull away if she wanted. She didn't. Her fingers met mine halfway, warm and trembling. You know people will talk, I said quietly. Let them, she replied. They don't know me. And they don't know you. We sat there like that, hands touching, the morning light spilling across the floor. And for the first time, The silence between us felt easy. She laughed softly, the kind of laugh that doesn't ask for permission. You never did finish that fence properly. I grinned. Guess I'll have to stay until it's done. She leaned forward, her hand still wrapped in mine, and rested her forehead against my shoulder. It wasn't a kiss, not yet, but it carried the weight of one, quiet, deliberate, real. Maybe that's not such a bad thing, she whispered. Outside, a bird called somewhere down the street. The day had started, ordinary as ever, but nothing about it felt ordinary anymore. I lifted her hand and pressed it lightly against my chest. Feels like it's fixed enough, I said. She smiled at that, not the guarded one she used to wear, but a real one, small and certain. And when she looked at me, there was no fear left. Just warmth. Just choice. We stayed like that, close enough to feel each other's breathing, while the morning light climbed slowly up the walls. Whatever came next, it would be ours. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?